So, I'm a software developer, and I've been thinking a bit today about how software is different from other products and how I think I would like to do software development as a job. Software, unlike other services, other products, isn't really something you consume. If you write the right piece of software once, you can then sell it to a series of people and have each of them pay the same price or a different price each time. You can just change it arbitrarily. And you just keep making more and more and more money until someone else finds out that there's a market for this product. And then they go and make the same thing essentially that you just made with a couple of slight tweaks, and they sell it at a lower price, and then you have this weird price battle thing, and I guess that's business. That's not how other things work. It depends, but generally you tell someone to do something, and then once they've done it for you, it's not like the person behind you in line suddenly doesn't need it done for them anymore. If you're really good at painting houses, you're still going to have more houses to paint tomorrow, and then the person you already painted their house, maybe they want the color changed. It's not like that with software. If there was a house painting program, you'd write it once, and then everyone who ever needed their house painted would just come to you and pay you the money. There's this trend that happens with software where eventually the kinds of problems that you solve, they lose the value because of that process that I described before of people duplicating what you did and reducing the price and battling it out. But I don't want to be that first guy that creates this software that solves this problem and starts this whole chain of things. If I solve a problem, I want it to be solved for everyone. And I don't, unless it's completely necessary, I don't want everyone to have to pay money for it, because that just means that someone else is going to try to solve the problem again if they don't like my price. Why would I solve the problem again if it means that someone else is still going to have to solve it? So we've got this trend where there's actually plenty of pieces of software that are no longer valuable, like the calculator program that comes with every operating system and with every mobile device. That there was a time where the ability to add, subtract, multiply, divide any old number, that was a hard problem, but now it's just a part of the hardware, and it's one assembly instruction away from getting the answer, and so it's not valuable anymore. And if it were something that wasn't a part of every operating system, then there would certainly be open source software. Heck, I'm sure there's plenty of open source software uh, versions of calculators for people that think the default Windows or Mac or iPhone calculator isn't good enough. So my point is that I want to solve a problem once and have it be solved forever. I don't want to write some lines of code that solve this and then give it to some $1 billion company and have them lock it up in a safe. And then 3 years later, someone else who's in my same position has to solve the same problem again because they're not aware of the solution that I wrote. Or the solution that I wrote is so highly dependent on internal software that changes so regularly that they might as well just throw out my solution and start all over again. What actual impact have I made if my solution doesn't stick around? Now, to some extent, that's just because there's no such thing as a perfect piece of software, right? If you're not around to keep making changes to your software, then it's going to become outmoded. There's going to be bugs that show up. Sure. But what's the right process to produce the best software? I don't like I want to be along for the ride, but I don't want all of that work done improving the software, keeping it up, maintaining it, just to result in nothing for the general population other than a few cents cheaper uh, products, if you happen to be buying from this massive corporation. Now, not every software developer feels this way, and certainly I acknowledge that it's valuable, it's useful to have this structure where intellectual property is valued, that if you do something, you have the option of keeping it to yourself, keeping the program that you wrote locked up in a safe and only allowing people who paid you to access it. And I think that's perfectly fine and reasonable. But I think there's plenty of other people like me out there where if they could just get paid to write this open source software and interact with the people that use it and work together with people to figure out the best solution and keep maintaining it as we go along, uh, or not, as the case may be, because if there's no need to make improvements to the software, then maybe this open source system, maybe they just don't get paid to do it anymore. Maybe it's pay based on popularity to some extent, right? I think that's the kind of system that I'd want to be a part of. It's just not as fulfilling as it could be when I solve what I think of as hard problems for the company that I work for. Yes, I still get to help customers solve people's problems, but it doesn't stay solved for very long. And at the end of the day, the piece of software that I wrote isn't going to live for very long. It's not open to the public. And opening things up to the public is the only real way to make your software live forever. There's certain rare circumstances where corporations will open up their internal software to the public or open up certain parts of it as a library when they think they would benefit from, wider community support, the benefits of using open source software generally. But that's the thing, it's so hard to monetize this when there's not a system in place. People are predisposed to how it works now, where if someone comes up to them and sells them something and it works for them, it solves what they want to be solved, and they're absolutely going to be willing to pay for it. But if someone came up to you and said, would you like to support the possibility of this thing being done eventually? Or would you like to support this person who's working on your problem, but also 100 other people's problems at the same time that don't relate to you? It's less convincing, it's less compelling for the average person, I would think. And just in general, getting people's attention is really hard, especially if my YouTube channel is anything to go by. So in summary, software is a strange kind of product, and I don't know how I feel about producing it. And I know that I enjoy problem solving, but I hate that all of my work is just getting locked away and I legally can't share it with anyone. And the company certainly isn't going to be sharing it with anyone anytime soon.